a desolation, a aberration, a conversation, a corporation, a demonstration, a generation, a innovation, a innovation, a reformation, a aberration, a adoration, a degradation, a degradation, a intonation, a observation, a perforation, a provocation, a provocation, a reservation, a saturation, a speculation, a aberration, a conservation, a correlation, a correlation, a declaration, a desolation, a domination, a federation, a inspiration, a motivation, a registration, a regulation, a restoration, a restoration, a revelation, a separation, a separation, a revelation, a separation, a aberration, a celebration, a concentration, a confrontation, a consultation, a exclamation, a excavation, a escalation, a explanation, a reformation, a defamation, a convocation, a defamation, a illustration, a implication, a separation, a installation, a exclamation, a invocation, a installation, a invocation, a irritation, a aberration, a simulation, a vegetation, a aspiration, a consolation, a defamation, a desperation, a expiration, a exclamation, 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 a intimation, a liquidation, a malformation, a moderation, a recitation, a validation, a visitation, a acclamation, a aberration, a alternation, a condemnation, a constellation, a constellation, a defamation, a legislation, a propagation, a reparation, a reparation, a stipulation, a toleration, a veneration, a aggregation, a allocation, a annotation, a coloration, accommodation, a congregation, a connotation, a consternation, a convocation, a dissertation, a domination, a hesitation, a escalation, a aberration, a operation, a defamation, a integration, a exploitation, a renovation, a rumination, a segregation, a stimulation, a ventilation, a education, a alteration, a invocation, a collocation, a computation, a conjugation, a consummation, a intimation, a detonation, a devastation, a devastation, a formulation, a liberation, a liberation, a liberation, a liberation, a litigation. You stimulation. Isolation, I operation, I conversation, I corporation, I demonstration, I generation, I innovation, I intimation, I reformation, I animation, I congregation, I decoration, I degradation, I intonation, I observation, I perforation, I provocation, I reservation, I saturation, I speculation, I adoration, I conservation, I correlation, I decoration, I desolation, I domination, I federation, I aspiration, I motivation, I registration, I regulation, I restoration, I restoration, I separation, I separation, I aberration, I operation, I celebration, I concentration, I confrontation, I confrontation, I consultation, I estimation, I excavation. confirmation, I application, I implication, I installation, I invocation, I irrigation, I irritation, I preparation, I simulation, I vegetation, I aspiration, I consolation, I defamation, I defamation, I exclamation, 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 I intimation, I liquidation, I'm affirmation, I'm adoration, I recitation, I validation, I visitation, I acclamation, I aggravation, I alternation, I condemnation, I constellation, I defamation, I legislation, I propagation, I reprobation, I stipulation.